Pain is often misunderstood. We grow up believing it is something to avoid, something that signals danger or failure. But what if pain wasn't the enemy? What if it was the messenger? A voice trying to show us something we've ignored for too long. Pain doesn't come to punish us. It comes to prepare us. It whispers lessons about our limits, our values, and the parts of us that are still untested. When everything feels comfortable, growth is slow. We stay where things are safe, predictable, and familiar. But pain disrupts that comfort. It forces us to look inward, to question what we truly believe about ourselves. It challenges the identity we've built. The one that says, this is who I am, and this is all I can do. Pain exposes how small that definition really is. It invites us to expand it. The most transformative people aren't the ones who never felt pain, they're the ones who learned to listen to it. They didn't let it define them, but they didn't ignore it either. They sat with it. They asked, what is this trying to teach me? That simple question turns pain from an obstacle into a compass. It points us toward the very thing we need to face in order to evolve. Think about every meaningful breakthrough in your life. It probably came after a difficult moment. A loss, a rejection, a disappointment. Those moments hurt deeply. Yet they shaped your perspective, refined your strength, and forced you to adapt. Pain strips away illusion. It leaves only truth, what matters, what doesn't, and what you're truly capable of enduring. Pain also reveals resilience in its rawest form. When life breaks you open, you begin to realize how much power you actually hold. The first time you recover from something you thought would destroy you, you start to see yourself differently. You no longer fear pain in the same way, because you've seen that even when it knocks you down, you can rise again, stronger, clearer, and more grounded than before. There's wisdom inside pain, but it speaks in a language most of us try not to hear. It tells us where our boundaries need to be, where our attention should go, and where healing is overdue. Ignoring pain doesn't make it disappear, it only makes its lessons louder. Listening to it, on the other hand, helps us navigate life with deeper awareness and purpose. Pain humbles us. It removes the illusion of control and reminds us how interconnected we all are. Everyone, no matter how strong or successful, and knows what it means to hurt. And in that shared experience lies empathy. Pain teaches compassion, not just for others, but for ourselves. It helps us soften even as we grow stronger. When we stop resisting pain and start respecting it, it becomes a teacher. One that pushes us toward the edge of our comfort zone, not to break us, but to build us. It teaches us to stretch our limits, to embrace discomfort as a sign of growth, and to recognize that within every wound lies the potential for transformation. As the choice between suffering and strength, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Every one of us encounters moments that shake us: loss, failure, heartbreak, disappointment. These moments are not in our control. What is in our control is the story we tell ourselves about them. We can see them as proof that life is cruel or as invitations to uncover our inner strength. The difference between suffering and strength is the meaning we assign to our pain. When we believe that pain happens to us, we fall into victimhood. We wait for circumstances to change before we do. But when we realize that pain can happen for us, to shape, refine, and elevate us, everything changes. The experience remains the same, but the outcome transforms. One path leads to resentment, the other leads to resilience. This is the quiet power of perspective. Strength is not built in the absence of pain, it's built through it. Every time you face adversity, your mind gives you two choices: collapse or construct. You can let pain consume you, or you can let it carve new space within you for growth. People often think strength is about endurance, but it's really about transformation. Using the energy of struggle to rebuild yourself from the inside out. Suffering keeps us stuck in the story of what happened. Strength rewrites that story. It says, this may have hurt me, but it doesn't define me. That's not denial, it's power. It's the decision to move forward, even when the weight of the past tries to hold you back. It's the understanding that healing doesn't erase the pain, it turns it into purpose. Choosing strength doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. It means allowing yourself to feel fully, but not letting those feelings dictate your future. It means acknowledging the wound, but refusing to live inside it. It's standing in the storm and saying, this is not how my story ends. That choice, quiet, deliberate, often unseen, is where resilience begins. Every person you admire has made that choice at some point. They've taken what was meant to break them and turned it into something that built them. It's not that they never felt pain. They just refused to stay there. They transformed suffering into fuel, channeling it toward growth, creativity, and purpose. When we choose strength over suffering, we reclaim our power. We stop waiting for the world to become easier and start becoming stronger within it. The challenges don't disappear, but our relationship with them changes. We begin to see pain not as a wall to avoid, but as a doorway to walk through. Because ultimately, the measure of resilience isn't how much we endure. It's how we transform what we endure into wisdom, courage, and a deeper sense of self. Aside the hidden gift in every struggle carries something within it. A hidden gift that can only be revealed when we stop running from it. Most people never find this gift because they spend all their energy wishing the pain away. But struggle has a way of refining us, of peeling back layers of who we think we are to reveal who we were meant to become. The challenge is not just to survive it, but to see it, to recognize that buried beneath the discomfort is the seed of transformation. We often look back on the hardest seasons of our lives and realize they were also the most defining. The heartbreak that forced us to rediscover our worth. The failure that redirected us towards something greater. The disappointment that humbled us and taught us empathy. These are not coincidences, they are the natural byproducts of struggle. Pain is the process through which life introduces us to our depth. The gift doesn't always arrive wrapped in clarity. Sometimes it's disguised as loss, as rejection, as endings we didn't ask for. In those moments, it's easy to believe that life is against us. But over time, when the noise quiets and the wound begins to heal, we start to see the pattern. How every closed door pointed us toward the right one. How every detour shaped our character. Struggle, it turns out, is life's most creative form of direction. The hidden gift is perspective. It's the ability to see beyond the surface of pain and into the lesson it carries. When we look at struggle with curiosity instead of resistance, we begin to extract meaning from it. We start asking different questions. What is this trying to show me? What strength is this building? What version of me is emerging through this? And in asking, we begin to grow. Struggle also teaches gratitude in ways comfort never can. When you've been broken, you appreciate wholeness differently. When you've been lost, you value direction. When you've fallen, you don't take standing for granted. The moments that test us most deeply also awaken us most completely. They shift how we see the world and how we see ourselves within it. But finding the gift doesn't mean glorifying the struggle. It's not about pretending that pain is pleasant or that suffering is noble. It's about recognizing that within every hardship lies an opportunity, an invitation to learn, adapt, and evolve. Growth is not born in ease, it's forged in friction. Every time you rise after being knocked down, you uncover a piece of strength that was always there but never needed until now. The people who thrive are not those who avoid struggle, but those who learn to mine it for meaning. They don't just ask, why is this happening to me? They ask, what is this making possible? That shift from resistance to revelation changes everything. Because once you find the gift in struggle, life's challenges stop feeling like punishments and start feeling like pathways. The hidden gift in every struggle is not what happens to you. It's what happens within you. It's the clarity, the courage, and the character that can only be born when life tests your edges and you refuse to break. Salazar's resilience begins with perspective. Resilience is not about being unshakable. It's about how you see what shakes you. Two people can face the same storm. One is destroyed by it, the other grows because of it. The difference isn't strength, it's perspective. Perspective is the lens that determines whether we view pain as a threat or as a teacher. It's the quiet, unseen factor that shapes every decision, every reaction, every comeback. When life gets hard, our first instinct is often to ask, why me? But the more powerful question is, what now? That simple shift moves us from victimhood to agency. Why me traps us in the past, in blame, regret, and what ifs. What now pulls us into the present, into choice, into learning, into possibility. Perspective doesn't erase pain, it repositions it. It helps us see that what feels like an ending can also be a beginning. Perspective is built in the pauses, in those quiet moments between what happened and how we respond. In that space lies freedom. We can choose to react impulsively, or we can choose to interpret intentionally. The mind that says, this is impossible, and the mind that says, this is preparing me, are both correct. Whichever one you feed will shape your reality. The most resilient people aren't those who have perfect lives. They're those who have trained their eyes to find meaning in the mess. They don't deny reality. They redefine it. They don't say, this shouldn't be happening. They say, this is happening. So how can I use it? They don't ask for fewer challenges, they ask for more clarity within them. This way of thinking doesn't make life easier, but it makes it richer. Perspective turns breakdowns into breakthroughs. It helps you recognize that the things you once labeled as failures were actually foundations. Every rejection redirected you. Every delay developed patience. Every mistake sharpened wisdom. Resilience isn't born from perfection. It's born from perception, from the ability to see progress in pain and lessons in loss. But perspective doesn't appear automatically. It's cultivated. It's a daily practice of zooming out, of looking at your life not just from within the moment, but from beyond it. When you can step back and see your story as a whole, the pain starts to make sense. You realize that this chapter, however difficult, is not your story, it's part of your story. That understanding alone gives you the strength to keep turning pages. Our perception determines our power. When we see pain as punishment, we shrink. When we see it as preparation, we rise. The world doesn't need people who never fall. It needs people who fall, reflect, and return with new eyes. Perspective is what gives meaning to resilience. It's what turns endurance into evolution. The truth is, resilience begins the moment you decide to see differently. It's the courage to find light in the dark, to extract purpose from the struggle, and to believe that even in chaos, life is still working for you, not against you. For say emotion is his energy. Learn to channel emotions are not weaknesses, they are signals. They are the raw energy of our inner world trying to communicate something vital. Anger, fear, sadness, frustration. These are not enemies to silence, but messengers to understand. The problem is not that we feel too much, but that we've never been taught what to do with what we feel. We suppress, we hide, we numb. Yet, when emotion is buried, it doesn't die. It transforms into tension, burnout, or bitterness. The key is not to control emotion, but to channel it. Every emotion carries energy, and energy always demands movement. When you feel anger, it's energy demanding direction. When you feel fear, it's energy demanding awareness. When you feel grief, it's energy demanding release. If we learn to harness that energy instead of resisting it, we can turn emotional chaos into creative clarity. Emotion, when channeled, becomes momentum, the fuel that moves us from breakdown to breakthrough. Think about anger. Left unmanaged, it destroys. But when directed, it becomes determination. Many of the world's greatest achievements were born from frustration. From people saying, this isn't right and I'm going to change it. The same energy that can burn bridges can also build them. The difference lies in direction. Emotion only becomes destructive when it has nowhere to go. Fear, too, carries tremendous power. It's not just a warning, it's awareness heightened. Fear tells us where our edges are, and edges are where growth happens. When we run from fear, it grows louder. When we face it, it starts to guide us. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward with it. Channeling fear into preparation, focus, and alertness transforms paralysis into progress. Even sadness, often seen as weakness, holds deep potential. It connects us to empathy, to reflection, to meaning. It reminds us of what we value, of what matters enough to hurt. When we allow sadness to speak, through writing, art, conversation, or silence, it purifies our perspective. It grounds us in authenticity. Emotion is not a storm to survive, it's a current we can learn to swim with. When we channel emotion, we reclaim control over its impact. We stop being at the mercy of what we feel and start becoming the sculptors of it. The energy that once overwhelmed us begins to serve us. The sadness that once slowed us down begins to deepen our humanity. The anger that once consumed us becomes the spark for action. Emotion becomes not an obstacle, but an ally. Resilience is not emotional suppression, it's emotional intelligence. It's knowing when to release, when to redirect, and when to rest. It's learning to pause before reacting and ask, what is this emotion asking of me? That question alone can turn volatility into vision. It transforms reactive energy into responsive clarity. Emotion is energy in motion. When you learn to guide that motion, to give your feelings purpose, expression, and flow, you stop being controlled by your inner world and start co-creating with it. That's where true resilience lives, not in ignoring emotion, but in mastering its movement. Ask the power of small wins in hard times. When life feels heavy, we often believe that only big victories can lift us up. We wait for breakthroughs, for some dramatic change that proves we're moving forward. But resilience is not built in leaps, it's built in steps. Small wins are the quiet architects of strength. They are proof that progress is possible even when everything feels impossible. In hard times, our focus narrows. The mountain ahead feels too high, the path too long. But the secret is not to conquer the mountain, it's to take the next step. One email sent, one workout finished, one honest conversation had. These small wins may seem insignificant in the moment, but they accumulate. Over time, they form the foundation of momentum. Each step whispers, you can keep going. So small wins create evidence. Evidence that you are capable, that you are moving, that you haven't given up. In moments of despair, logic fails, but evidence saves. The brain learns through experience, and every small success tells your nervous system, we are safe, we are adapting, we are progressing. That's how resilience rewires itself. Not in the grand moments of triumph, but in the consistent choice to act when it would be easier to stop. When you focus on small wins, you reclaim your sense of control. You can't always control the outcome, but you can control your effort. You can control your attitude, your attention, your actions. And when everything around you feels uncertain, that small pocket of control becomes power. It gives you direction when life feels disoriented. The power of small wins is that they transform identity. Each time you choose to show up, even a little, you reinforce a belief. I'm the kind of person who keeps moving. That belief is the root of resilience. Big victories are moments, but small wins are habits. They are the daily proof that strength is not a trait, it's a practice. Small wins also anchor you in the present. When the future feels overwhelming, focusing on what you can do today keeps anxiety from taking over. It shifts your energy from rumination to action. You stop asking, how will I get through this year? And start asking, what can I do in the next hour? That shift from the abstract to the immediate is where hope begins to grow again. In seasons of pain, small wins remind us that healing isn't linear, but it is happening. They teach us that we don't need to rebuild everything at once. We just need to keep moving one piece at a time. The courage to take a small step, especially when your heart feels heavy, is not a minor act, it's an act of rebellion against despair. The truth is, resilience rarely looks heroic in real time. It looks like persistence. It looks like quiet effort. It looks like someone who decides, just for today, not to give up. And over time, those tiny, ordinary acts of perseverance become extraordinary proof of strength. That even in your hardest moments, you are still moving forward. Ask Your Story Can Save Someone Else. Every scar tells a story, not a weakness, but a survival. The moments you thought broke you are the very moments that connect you most deeply to others. We live in a world obsessed with appearing strong, yet true strength is often found in the courage to be seen, fully, honestly, imperfectly. Your story, with all its pain and imperfection, has the power to reach someone who believes they're alone in theirs. People don't connect with perfection, they connect with authenticity. When you share where you've fallen and how you rose, you give others permission to rise too. Your vulnerability becomes their hope. It says, if they made it through that, maybe I can too. And in that moment, your pain becomes something larger than yourself. It becomes purpose. The very thing that once wounded you begins to heal others. We often underestimate the impact of our own stories because we compare them to someone else's. But the truth is, no story is too small when it carries truth. Maybe your story won't fill an auditorium, but it might fill a heart that's about to give up. The power of your story isn't in its scale. It's in its honesty. It's not about being extraordinary. It's about being real. Sharing your story doesn't mean you have everything figured out. It means you've decided that your pain will no longer control you. When you speak from your scars, instead of your wounds, you speak from strength. You remind people that healing is possible. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because you learned to navigate it differently. That kind of honesty creates connection deeper than any motivational quote ever could. Sometimes the person who needs to hear your story most is sitting right next to you. The friend who hides behind a smile. The colleague who seems fine but is barely holding it together. The stranger who's fighting a battle you can't see. When you choose to speak up, you offer them something rare, understanding without judgment, empathy without pity, hope without condition. Your story doesn't have to be polished, it just has to be shared. When you own it, you take back the power it once had over you. You turn pain into language, and language into light. You become a mirror for others to see that brokenness and beauty can coexist. You show that healing isn't the absence of struggle, but the integration of it. And when you share, something remarkable happens. Your pain finds meaning. It stops being just yours. It becomes part of a collective strength, a chain of courage that connects people who might never meet, but who understand each other deeply. That's the quiet magic of storytelling. It transforms suffering into solidarity. Because in the end, your greatest impact won't come from your achievements. It will come from your story. The one where you fell, learned, and rose. The one that whispers to others you can rise too. Resilience is a practice, not a personality trait. Resilience is often seen as something you either have or you don't, as if some people are born stronger, braver, or more unshakable than others. But the truth is, resilience isn't a gift, it's a discipline. It's not written in your DNA, it's built in your decisions. It's a skill, a mindset, a daily practice of showing up, even when you don't feel like it. Resilience grows through repetition. Every time you face a challenge and choose not to give up, you train it. Every time you fall and decide to rise, you strengthen it. It's not one grand act of courage, but a series of small, consistent choices. To breathe through the anxiety, to move through the fear, to keep faith when the outcome is unclear. Over time, those choices become muscle memory. You stop asking, can I handle this? And start remembering, I've handled it before. Practicing resilience doesn't mean pretending to be okay when you're not. It means giving yourself permission to struggle, to stumble, to rest, but never to quit. It's learning to balance grace with grit. Some days, resilience looks like pushing forward. Other days, it looks like slowing down so you can continue tomorrow. Strength is not built by constant motion. It's built by conscious recovery. The practice of resilience starts in how you speak to yourself. Your inner dialogue is the training ground of your endurance. When you fall short, do you attack yourself or encourage yourself? When life tests you, do you ask, why me? Or what can I learn? The words you choose shape the identity you reinforce. Resilience begins with self-talk that believes in the possibility of growth, even when evidence is scarce. Consistency is the heartbeat of resilience. It's doing the small things that keep you grounded, journaling when your mind feels chaotic, exercising when your body feels heavy, reaching out when isolation tempts you to withdraw. These are not trivial acts. They're the daily rituals that remind your nervous system that you are still in motion, still adapting, still alive. Resilience also thrives in connection. No one practices it alone. The strongest people aren't the ones who never ask for help. They're the ones who know when to. Support doesn't make you weaker, it sustains your strength. Sometimes resilience means leaning on people, on faith, on purpose, until you can stand again. And perhaps the most important part of practicing resilience is remembering that it's not about bouncing back to who you were before. It's about becoming someone new, someone wiser, deeper, more grounded. Every trial refines you. Every recovery reshapes you. Resilience isn't about returning to normal. It's about redefining what's possible. The practice never ends. Because life will always test your limits, and every test is another chance to strengthen them. Each time you choose to show up, heart open, eyes forward, You reaffirm the truth that resilience isn't something you have, it's something you do.